Hi there, this is Sarah. This video is to provide an overall introduction and explanation of the functionalist view of religion and religious beliefs. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through the key thinkers and some of the key concepts for the ways in which functionalists explain religion and the purpose of religion in society, the function of religion in society. Okay. So first of all, we're going to start off with Durkheim. So you've come across Durkheim. You know that he's been a very influential functionalist throughout your studies so far for sociology. And Durkheim has very similar things to say about religion, and you could probably guess in advance some of the key terms that are going to come up that you know from family, from education. So Durkheim actually, in this case, he studied Aboriginal society in Australia, and he looked at something that he named totems, so the kind of worshipping of sacred symbols, and he likened those to worshipping society itself. So he kind of really looked at everybody having this kind of social solidarity and this cohesion of worshipping the same meaningful symbols, sacred symbols, and that's known as totemism. And really that kind of shows that the definitions of religion can be quite tricky, because when we talk about believing in a definite God or a higher being or a deity of some kind, it's not always that simple when we look at things like Buddhism. When we look at the work Durkheim did on the Aboriginal people, then there's some slight different definitions. So we need to realise that it's actually quite difficult to explain an exact definition of religion. But Durkheim felt that the sacred worship of these totems was a way of encouraging shared values, so a way of reaching that value consensus. So already we've got some key terms. We've got Durkheim as a key thinker, we've got totemism, and we've got value consensus, and we can link that to social cohesion and social solidarity as well. Then Parsons, who you also are familiar with. Parsons also has something to say on religion, and he actually wrote that he feels that, or his studies said that he feels that religion provides these core values for society. So again, Parsons is talking about that value consensus of people having a shared set of values, and how religion can provide that set of values within its teachings. And then that's helpful to society because obviously it creates a harmonious sense of social cohesion where everyone is working towards the same goals and the same values in their life. And that helps people integrate into society, and it helps everybody have a role and a direction within society, and that leads to harmonious living. And then there's two new theorists for you to bring in as well. So we've got firstly Malinowski. Now, Malinowski was actually an anthropologist, not a sociologist. However, his teachings are really, really helpful for this area. So you can see here, I've got Malinowski. So this is just if you've not come across the spelling before. Malinowski, here's some of the terms that we've looked at so far, and there will be more to come. Malinowski, and also the other kind of spelling you'll need if you're taking notes on this for the first time, is the Trobriand Islands. Okay, so I'll pop that down for a moment. So what Malinowski did as an anthropologist was he spent some years living in these islands in the South Pacific, and what he discovered really from watching people, as an anthropologist would, is that people were using their religious beliefs. They were finding the function of them really was to provide a sense of calm and reassurance in times where people were very nervous or emotional or stressed about a certain life event. So firstly, he kind of pointed those out, things like births and deaths that can be, it's hard to find ways to explain what they really mean. We don't know what happens after we die. Birth can be very unpredictable. So kind of having a religious belief that kind of clears up some of the uncertainty is one of the functions of religion. But one thing he noticed specifically as a kind of, he was like a participant researcher really, living on this island, but also noticing how cultures behaved, how different people behave with different values and beliefs. And what he noticed was there were these two types of fishing on these Trobriand Islands. So the islanders, those of them, it would have been men then, who would go fishing. There was the lagoon fishing, which was in calm waters, and that they didn't do any kind of anything special for that. That was kind of everyday fishing. But then there was this deep water, like open ocean fishing, and that not only could be quite unpredictable in terms of how many fish you would catch, and obviously you wanted to get lucky, you wanted to get this big kind of pool of fish that you could bring home and to sell and for your family. But what those fishermen, the other thing they were facing was the uncertainty in terms of death, because that was far more dangerous work to do. So what Malinowski noticed is that families and the fishermen themselves would carry out certain religious rituals, and they would use their kind of religious teachings as a real reassurance when they were going out and doing that more dangerous fishing. So his conclusion from that really was that if we're doing something particularly dangerous or uncertain, the function of religion is that it is really helpful there. So as well as Durkheim, Parsons and Malinowski, the fourth functionalist explanation of religion that you need to get to grips with really before you move on into any more sociology of religion is Bella. Okay, so Bella is Bellaa. So we've got Bella here. These are your four theorists that you'll be familiar with now. And Bella talks about something called civil religion. So Bella's ideas are actually quite different to the three that we've looked at already. And his example, and this was in the 60s, he was a functionalist sociologist, and his example was American society. And he used the ideas that in American society, you know, people pledge allegiance to the country, to the flag. You know, we have similar things in the UK as well. And that civil religion was something that everyone focused their same kind of beliefs, their same values onto, and that created that kind of social cohesion and sense of togetherness, that stability. So it could be political figures that people are kind of, you know, pledging allegiance to. It could also be flags. It could be royal deaths, the way that people behave. You think about when Princess Diana died, you know, in this country there were huge numbers of people in the streets who'd never met her but were incredibly moved and felt personally invested in what had happened. So this idea of civil religion is still a collective feeling and a collective behaviour, but it's a belief. It's not necessarily a religion in the way of, you know, when we think about the belief in a God. Although, of course, those things are often tied together, especially when it comes to, you know, in the UK, monarchy, we have a queen. It's been, you know, it's believed that there's kind of a divine right or a God-given right that's what creates that bloodline. Obviously, different groups would have different things to say about that. But functionists kind of view this, you know, through Bella's work, view this idea of civil religion and, you know, being another way of creating social solidarity. So it's another way that we functionists can explain the function of our beliefs in society. So what we've got there, if I just give you a recap, so if you're making notes on this for the first time, your objective will be to be able to use and understand these key terms, and to be able to use and understand these four sociologists who give us functionalist explanations for the function of beliefs in society. So we've got totemism, which is Durkheim. We've got rituals, which links with totemism, but also links with Malinowski's work. We've got value consensus, which we've come across before, but of course that's how functionists are explaining religion as a useful and a meaningful, helpful function within society. Civil religion is Bella, and social cohesion really is the outcome of all of these explanations. So we've got Durkheim, Parsons, Malinowski and Bella. Trobriand Islands is another key word, because that might be a new one to get your head around in terms of spelling and remembering that. And once you've mastered those, then you're ready to move on. So maybe rewatch this video, maybe pausing it in order to take notes as you go along, and then possibly second time of watching, pause where I'm holding up that board and test yourself on the definitions of each of those. Make a glossary if that might be helpful to you, and then be prepared to be tested in class and to use some of those terms. So I'll see you soon. Thanks.